The Nine Tails had already torn half of Konoha apart when Minato Namikaze understood what his final seal had to do. Kurama towered above the ruined edge of the village, while Kushina's chakra chains strained around his body. Their newborn son lay inside the barrier, and Naruto's tiny chakra network could never survive the full force of the fox pouring into it at once. Months before the birth, Minato and Kushina had prepared one Uzumaki emergency formula for the possibility that Kushina's seal failed during labor. It had never been intended to create a permanent Jinchuriki. Its purpose was to catch Kurama for a few minutes inside a temporary vessel while Kushina's seal was repaired or a second containment team arrive. The formula required a living stabilizer to rout a tailed beast in controlled stages. With Kushina dying and no second team coming, Minato used that unfinished design for something it had never been meant to do. He spread the formula beneath Naruto, split Kurama's chakra into two counter-rotating streams, and pulled both through himself. The fox could remain inside Naruto only if the regulator stayed for years. So Minato rewrote the center of the formula and anchored it to his own soul. That change made his death part of the mechanism. When his body died, he would remain inside his son. The transfer began before Kushina's chains gave way. Both streams of Kurama's chakra tore through Minato's network, crossed the formula, and joined again inside Naruto's seal. Kushina understood the final clause when she saw the pattern close around her son. She reached toward Naruto, while Minato forced the last line into place. Kurama vanished into the infant, and Minato's body collapsed beside Kushina. At the same moment, a vast stone chamber formed inside Naruto around an enormous chained gate. The complete Nine Tails opened his eyes behind it. Minato appeared between the gate and the sleeping child as a spiritual body bound to the seal. Kurama smashed one paw against the barrier hard enough to shake the chamber. Minato caught the surge through the regulator and kept the seal stable, while Naruto began to cry in the outside world. For the next 5 years, that cry was the only voice Minato could hear clearly. By dawn, Hiruzen had Naruto moved to a sealed medical room beneath the Hokage residence. 2 senior sealing specialists and a medic examined every layer they could reach without disturbing the infant's chakra network. They confirmed that the Nine Tails was contained, and that the outer channels were feeding Naruto only tiny amounts of pressure. They also found a faint hostile imprint caught in the fox's outer chakra, the residue of Sharingan control that did not belong to Naruto, Kushina, or Minato. It did not identify the attacker, and the sensory records available to Hiruzen could not match it to any Uchiha officer whose chakra signature was already registered with the village. That was not proof that every Uchiha was innocent, but it was enough for Hiruzen to reject the idea that the entire clan could be blamed without evidence. The center of the formula was different. It folded inward around a knot of chakra that behaved like part of the seal itself. The first attempt to probe deeper made the outer lines tighten and Naruto's pulse jump. Hiruzen stopped the examination. Minato had died completing an emergency technique, and no one in the room was willing to tear open its center simply to satisfy curiosity. Hiruzen ordered the inner knot classified, and prohibited invasive inspection unless Naruto's life was in immediate danger. The specialists recorded it as Minato's regulating core. None of them realized that the core was Minato himself. Naruto grew in Konoha without knowing why adults watched him too long, or why some shopkeepers served him with stiff hands. During his earliest years, Hiruzen kept him in a small children's residence with civilian caretakers and quiet Anbu protection. The AMBU watched routes, rooftops, and the outer perimeter rather than walking beside him. A visible bodyguard would have advertised that the child was important, and Hiruzen wanted Naruto protected without turning him into a moving military announcement. The caretakers fed him and kept him safe, but fear around the Nine Tails made affection rare. Naruto learned which adults would answer his questions, which ones would turn away, and which streets became uncomfortable when people recognized him. Causing trouble was easier because at least people reacted. By 5, Naruto had already painted part of a storage wall near the academy, stolen fruit from a vendor who had refused to sell to him, and challenged 3 older boys to a race he had no chance of winning. He was loud, stubborn, quick to laugh, and even quicker to get angry. The person who would change the rest of his childhood was already inside him, still unable to make Naruto hear his voice. Minato remained conscious through those years, but the unfinished mental pathways of a small child limited the connection. He could feel Naruto's fear, exhaustion, sudden bursts of happiness, and the rough movement of his developing chakra. The outside world itself stayed hidden from him, and his attempts to speak disappeared before they reached Naruto's waking mind. Kurama found that deeply amusing. The fox spent years testing the boundaries of the new prison. He pressed chakra against the gate, attacked the regulating lines, and searched for any weakness that would let him pour enough power into Naruto to break free. Minato repaired each strain. He did not have a body anymore, so the work happened through the seal itself. He could shift pressure, close a leaking channel, and reinforce a damaged formula. Every repair reminded Kurama who had imprisoned him. Their conversations were rarely pleasant. Kurama blamed Minato for taking his freedom. Minato never denied it. He told the fox that he had chosen his son and the village over Kurama's freedom, and that he would make the same choice again if the alternative was watching Naruto die. That answer did not make Kurama hate him less, but it stopped the argument from becoming dishonest. The first true change came on a rainy evening, shortly after Naruto turned 5. 3 older children had cornered him behind a storage shed after he threw mud at one of them for calling him a monster. Naruto fought back hard enough to surprise them, but he was still smaller. A shove sent him down a steep wooded slope outside the training grounds. He hit wet earth, rolled through roots, and only stopped when his shoulder slammed into a tree. The impact knocked the air from him. For a few seconds, Naruto could not tell where he was. Rain hid his face. His shoulder burned. The slope below disappeared into darker trees, and one wrong movement could send him rolling again. Fear forced chakra through the seal. That sudden surge finally opened the pathway Minato had been waiting for. Naruto blinked and found himself standing ankle-deep in black water. The hillside was gone. Stone pillars rose around him, each covered in winding seal marks. Far ahead stood an enormous gate bound in thick chains. Darkness filled the space behind it. Then 2 red eyes opened higher than Naruto could raise his head. He stumbled backward. A voice behind him told him not to approach the gate. Naruto spun around and saw a blonde man kneeling a few steps away. Minato had imagined that meeting for 5 years. In every version, he had thought of something useful to say. He had planned explanations about chakra, the seal, the 9 tails, and the danger surrounding Naruto's birth. The real child looked at him with mud still dried along one cheek from the outside world and asked who he was. Minato answered with the truth. His name was Minato Namikaze. He had once been the 4th Hokage. More importantly, he was Naruto's father. Naruto stared at him, rubbed one muddy sleeve across his face, then moved closer and looked at Minato from different angles, as if searching for a trick. Then he asked why his father lived inside his stomach. Kurama laughed so loudly that the stone chamber shook. Naruto screamed and jumped behind Minato. That was how the strangest family in Konoha finally met. The conversation did not stay calm for long. Naruto wanted to know why Minato had never been able to speak to him before. He wanted to know where his mother was. He wanted to know why the fox was there, and why the villagers sometimes called him the same thing they called the monster from old stories. Minato gave him the parts a 5-year-old could carry. His mother had been Kushina Uzumaki. She had loved him before he was born. She and Minato had died protecting him and the village. The 9 tails had been sealed inside Naruto because there had been no safe place to leave it after the attack. Minato had placed his own soul inside the seal, so Naruto could survive carrying the complete beast. The details of the masked attacker could wait until Naruto was old enough to understand them. Minato kept the violence surrounding Kushina's childbirth to himself and focused on the truth a 5-year-old needed first. Naruto had been loved. His parents had died protecting him. And the fox behind the gate was dangerous, even when it was quiet. Before Naruto returned to the hillside, Minato gave him one rule that could not wait. Naruto was not to tell other people that the fourth Hokage lived inside him. Someone had attacked his mother, controlled Kurama, and escaped. Minato did not know whether that person was dead, watching Konoha, or working through someone inside the village. Naruto hated the rule immediately, but the thought of the attacker coming back for his father or the fox frightened him enough to promise. Keeping the promise was not effortless. 2 weeks later, during an argument with another child, Naruto shouted that his father could beat anyone's father, and nearly added the name. He caught himself, turned the rest into a boast, and was laughed at for having an imaginary parent. The humiliation taught him how easily the secret could slip when he was angry. Naruto absorbed the explanation in uneven pieces. What mattered most to him was much smaller. He had parents. His father knew his name. His mother had wanted him. He stepped toward Minato and tried to hug him. His arms passed partly through the spiritual body before the seal adjusted. Minato managed to become solid enough for a moment. Naruto grabbed his jacket with both hands and buried his face against him. Behind the gate, Kurama turned his head away with obvious irritation. The moment ended when the pain in Naruto's real shoulder pulled him back to the hillside. He woke on wet ground, with his fingers dug into the roots beside him. The slope was still dangerous. The older children were gone. Naruto almost called for Minato, before remembering that his father could not hear normal speech from outside yet. Then, he remembered something Minato had told him during those few minutes inside. Chakra moved through the body, as well as jutsu, and careful control could strengthen grip, balance, and movement. Naruto had no training, so he did not suddenly walk up the tree like an experienced ninja. He tried to push chakra into both feet and used far too much. His sandals slipped. He dropped to one knee and nearly fell again. He swore, grabbed a root, and tried again with less chakra. That change gave him enough traction to climb 2 steps. By the time he reached the top of the slope, his hands were scratched and his legs shook from exhaustion. He had solved the problem himself with one tiny piece of advice. A masked Anbu observer appeared at the far edge of the path, only after Naruto had cleared the dangerous section. The guard had been covering the training ground perimeter and had not seen the shove behind the storage shed. He stayed out of sight, followed Naruto back to the residence, and reported the incident. A caretaker cleaned Naruto's shoulder and hands that evening. Naruto never knew anyone had been close enough to help if the climb failed. That night, he fell asleep before finishing dinner. He returned to the stone chamber almost immediately. Minato was waiting. Naruto rushed toward him and announced that he had climbed the hill using chakra. Minato asked how many times he had fallen first. Naruto claimed only once. Kurama said it had been 3 times. Naruto turned toward the gate and demanded to know how the fox could know that, when even Minato could not see outside. Kurama explained that he did not see through Naruto's eyes. His chakra was tied directly to Naruto's network, so sudden fear, pain, and heavy chakra use reached him as blunt impressions. 3 hard spikes had run through the connection, while Naruto climbed. That was enough to count. Minato received emotion through the regulating core, but Kurama sat on the other side of the same chakra channels and felt physical surges more sharply. Naruto decided this was still suspiciously close to spying. Kurama replied that it was difficult to ignore someone using chakra as badly as Naruto did. Minato smiled, despite himself. That became their first lesson. For the next 2 years, Naruto's life developed along 2 tracks. During the day, he remained a noisy child in Konoha. Shortly after he turned 6, Hiruzen moved him from the children's residence into a small apartment with daily welfare checks. Naruto learned to cook simple meals, forgot to wash dishes until the smell reminded him, and discovered that having his own room felt both exciting and much quieter than he had expected. At night, whenever sleep and chakra aligned properly, he entered the seal and met his father. As his control improved, he also learned to enter deliberately while sitting still in meditation. The transition required closed eyes, and enough concentration to ignore the outside world, which made it useful for safe conversations and useless as a way to ask Minato for instructions during an active fight. Minato began with fundamentals because Naruto's body was still small. He taught breathing, balance, posture, observation, and the basic idea of chakra control. He showed Naruto how to feel the difference between physical energy and spiritual energy. He explained why pouring more chakra into every movement usually made control worse. Naruto hated slow exercises. He wanted fireballs, clones, and whatever technique had made Minato the fourth Hokage. Minato refused. When Naruto demanded to learn the Flying Raijin after hearing that his father had once crossed battlefields instantly, Minato spent 10 minutes explaining the precision required for space-time formulas. Naruto listened for roughly 40 seconds before asking if they could skip the difficult part. Kurama laughed again. Minato discovered that teaching his own son was harder than commanding Jonin. Naruto learned to stand on a tree trunk for a few seconds by using chakra in his feet. Later, he could walk several steps before slipping. He learned how to fall without landing directly on his elbows. He learned to notice where another child's weight shifted before a punch. He learned that a kunai thrown from the shoulder was slower than one released from a compact motion near the ribs. Minato could demonstrate these things inside the seal, but Naruto still had to teach his real body. Some nights, Naruto understood a movement perfectly and failed it for 2 weeks outside. His hands were smaller, his legs were weaker. His timing broke whenever fear or excitement hit, and Minato could not correct a shoulder or foot that existed on the other side of the seal. Minato treated those failures as information. Kurama treated them as entertainment. The fox did not speak to Naruto often at first. When he did, it was usually to insult Minato or complain about the noise. Naruto refused to be intimidated for long. Once he understood that the gate held, he began talking back. One evening, Minato tried to teach meditation. Naruto lasted 27 seconds before opening one eye. Kurama told him he had the attention span of an insect. Naruto asked whether giant foxes spent all day counting seconds because they had nothing better to do. Kurama's growl sent waves across the black water. Minato tried to continue the lesson and failed because Naruto was laughing too hard. Those moments mattered more than any technique. Naruto still returned to an empty apartment after sunset. He still ate instant noodles too often. Adults still watched him with unease. Yet, when a shopkeeper refused to let him enter, Naruto no longer spent the entire evening wondering whether everyone in the world hated him. He went home angry, fell asleep, and complained about the man to someone who cared. Minato could not replace a real home. Naruto could not bring him food, drag him into the street, or make the village see him. The absence still hurt, especially on mornings after vivid nights inside the seal. Naruto would wake with his hand gripping a blanket where his father's sleeve had been. But he did not grow up believing that he had come from nowhere. By 7, he was ready for the academy. Minato repeated the secrecy rule before Naruto started, because this would be the first place Naruto spent most of every day, surrounded by children who asked questions. Minato still did not know who had attacked Konoha on the night of Naruto's birth. He knew the masked man had used a Sharingan and a space-time technique. He knew the man had been strong enough to control Kurama, and bold enough to attack during Kushina's labor. If that enemy remained alive, Naruto could become a target the moment anyone learned exactly what Minato had done. Naruto complained that secrets were annoying. Minato agreed. Kurama called both of them hypocrites. Naruto entered the academy carrying a secret bigger than the building. The academy revealed a problem Minato had expected, and Naruto had not. Naruto knew more about movement than most children in his class, but his control became unreliable whenever an exercise demanded very small amounts of chakra. He could sprint up a tree trunk and hold himself there for several seconds. Then, he would return to class and create an academy clone with one arm slightly blurred because he had fed the technique too much energy. Iruka noticed the contradiction almost immediately. Naruto settled near the middle of the class in written work because long theory lessons still made him restless. His sparring results were much stronger. Years of fundamentals had taught him to watch feet, shoulders, and breathing. Even though his list of actual techniques remained short, he changed direction before attacks fully developed, and a loss usually became a lesson before the same exchange was over. That made him irritating to Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke entered the academy with cleaner technique and better natural precision. He also trained with the cold concentration of someone who treated every lesson as preparation for something more important. During their first spar, Sasuke beat Naruto in less than a minute. He drew Naruto forward with a false opening, shifted aside, and swept his legs. Naruto hit the ground hard enough to see white sparks. He spent the rest of the day angry. That night, Minato expected him to ask for a technique that would guarantee victory in the rematch. Naruto surprised him by asking why the sweep had worked. Minato used the black water of the inner world like a training floor. He recreated Naruto's stance from memory as Naruto described it. The problem had started before Sasuke moved. Naruto had leaned too far forward every time he thought he saw an opening. Sasuke had simply waited until the pattern repeated. The next time they sparred, Naruto still lost. It took almost 4 minutes. Sasuke had to change tactics twice. Naruto walked away grinning despite the bruise on his jaw. Their rivalry grew from there, but it was not built on Naruto desperately wanting Sasuke's attention. Naruto already had someone waiting for him every night. What interested him was the challenge. Sasuke forced him to improve, and Naruto's strange mix of rough technique and sharp adaptation forced Sasuke to stop relying on clean textbook answers. Outside sparring, they remained awkward around each other. Sasuke often ate alone. Naruto noticed, because he understood what an empty table felt like. One afternoon, he dropped onto the bench beside Sasuke with 2 rice balls and offered one without explanation. Sasuke refused. Naruto ate both. The next week, he sat there again. By the 4th time, Sasuke stopped telling him to leave. The Uchiha clan still stood as one of Konoha's strongest and most uneasy clans. Suspicion had fallen on them after the Nine-Tails attack, because the beast had been controlled by a Sharingan. But Hiruzen had refused demands to punish or isolate the entire clan without proof that a Konoha Uchiha had been responsible. The foreign chakra residue preserved during Naruto's first examination had strengthened that position. It pointed toward a specific hidden controller, rather than an entire clan acting together. Distrust remained, and the Uchiha still argued with village leadership over patrol authority and surveillance. But Hiruzen and the clan leadership maintained a tense, working compromise. By Naruto's academy years, those disputes were fought in meetings and duty rosters, rather than with weapons. He went home to a strict family, an accomplished older brother, and expectations that exhausted him in a different way. Naruto had first mistaken his habit of eating alone for the same loneliness he knew from an empty apartment. Over time, he realized that a person could feel crowded and lonely at the same table. Minato watched the friendship develop only through Naruto's stories. That limitation frustrated him. He had known the Uchiha as a clan, had worked beside their shinobi, and had left a village where political tensions were already dangerous. Naruto could tell him about arguments he overheard near the police compound, or that Sasuke sometimes arrived at class after training late into the night. But Minato had no way to inspect the village for himself. He learned to ask questions instead of making assumptions. That became important for Naruto too. When Naruto came home furious because an instructor had accused him of showing off during a chakra exercise, Minato did not immediately agree with him. He asked what Naruto had actually done. Naruto admitted that he had run across the wall after the instructor had specifically told everyone to practice only on the floor. Kurama said the instructor sounded smarter than expected. Naruto complained that both of them were supposed to be on his side. Minato explained that being on his side did not require pretending he was always right. Naruto hated that answer. Years later, he would remember it more clearly than the argument. A few months later, Iruka asked the class what kind of shinobi they wanted to become. Naruto had heard children talk about becoming clan leaders, jonin, or even Hokage. but none of those titles felt like his answer yet. He said he wanted enough strength and skill to make his own choices, protect the people he chose to stand beside, and stop other people from deciding his life because of what was sealed inside him. Minato heard about the answer that night and left it alone. He had been Hokage himself, but he never tried to turn his old title into Naruto's obligation. By 8, Naruto could walk along vertical surfaces reliably. By 9, he could cross the underside of a thick branch for several steps before his control failed. He practiced with small amounts of water in bowls, learning to disturb the surface without spilling it. Minato introduced simple sealing theory by drawing symbols into the inner chamber and making Naruto reproduce them with brush and ink outside. The work was slow. Naruto's first written seals looked as if a chicken had run through ink. Minato made him start again. Kurama was unusually quiet during those lessons. The fox understood seals too well, from the wrong side of them. One night, Naruto spent almost an hour failing to make a basic storage tag except a single practice pebble. Minato explained the flow 3 different ways. Naruto followed the instructions, pushed chakra into the tag, and watched the ink flare uselessly. Kurama finally lost patience. The fox told Naruto that he kept forcing chakra forward as if trying to shove the seal open. The formula was not a wall, it was a path. Naruto needed to let the chakra follow the shape before he pushed power through it. Naruto tried again. The pebble vanished into the storage tag. Silence filled the chamber. Naruto slowly turned toward the gate. Kurama realized his mistake at the same moment. Minato thanked him. The fox's ears flattened. He insisted that he had only wanted the terrible lesson to end. Naruto grinned for the rest of the night. It was the first time Kurama had helped him without being forced. The change remained small. Kurama still refused to explain anything about his own chakra. He still called Naruto a brat and Minato a jailer. If Naruto moved too close to the gate, the fox reminded him exactly how easily one claw could crush him if the seal ever opened. Yet Kurama started listening when Naruto talked about the outside world. Naruto told him about Sasuke's latest victory, Iruka's impossible homework, the old ramen cook who had started giving him extra egg, and a stray dog that followed him for 3 streets before stealing his lunch. Kurama claimed none of it mattered. Then, 2 weeks later, he asked whether the dog had come back. Minato wisely said nothing. Naruto laughed until Kurama threatened to stop speaking for a month. At 10, Naruto's training shifted again. His body had grown strong enough for more serious combat practice. Minato began teaching him how to use deception rather than simply react. He made Naruto describe imaginary battlefields, identify hiding places, listen for surfaces that carried sound, question routes that looked too safe, and think about how a clone could reveal information without winning the fight. Naruto liked this far more than meditation. Minato introduced the shadow clone technique only after Naruto had become stable with ordinary clones and had enough control to divide his enormous chakra reserve safely. Minato warned him that shadow clones were dangerous because they divided chakra evenly and returned their memories when released. Naruto heard the useful part and tried to create 20. He woke on his apartment floor several minutes later with a headache so severe that he crawled to bed without dinner. Inside the seal, Minato was furious. Kurama laughed for so long that Naruto threw a stone at the gate. After that, they created rules. Naruto would train with 1 shadow clone until he could maintain it comfortably, then 2, and later 3. Minato focused on purpose rather than numbers. A clone might watch an opponent's hands, move out of sight to create noise, or draw attention, while the real Naruto stayed hidden. Naruto quickly understood how useful returned memories could be, but Minato limited that training too. A 10-year-old brain did not need dozens of overlapping experiences every hour. The first public sign that Naruto had become unusual appeared during an academy field exercise. The students were sent through a wooded training area in pairs and told to retrieve cloth markers, while instructors tried to tag them with padded practice weapons. Naruto was paired with Choji. Sasuke was assigned elsewhere. Naruto and Choji found the first marker easily. The second sat in a clearing that looked almost too open. Choji wanted to rush it. Naruto noticed that the grass near the marker leaned in two directions, even though the wind had been steady all morning. Someone had recently crossed the clearing from opposite sides. He created a single shadow clone behind a tree and sent it forward. Two instructors dropped from concealment the moment the clone touched the marker. The clone burst. Naruto received the memory, circled around with Choji, and collected a second marker from the supply pouch one instructor had left hanging from a branch. It was not part of the intended solution. Iruka laughed when he heard about the theft from the instructor's pouch, but the shadow clone bothered him after the exercise ended. The technique had never been taught to the class. Naruto had enough chakra to survive using it, yet an academy student should not have known the method at all. Iruka checked the training records, confirmed that no instructor had authorized it, and filed a restricted report instead of confronting Naruto in front of other students. Hiruzen read the report that evening. Anbu logs had recorded Naruto practicing tree walking, ordinary clones, and basic weapon work over the years. All skills that could be explained by academy instruction and private practice. The guards had been ordered to watch for kidnappers, sabotage, and dangerous chakra surges, not to stand close enough to document every exercise. Naruto had also learned to choose isolated clearings whenever he practiced anything Minato considered sensitive. The shadow clone was the first unmistakable sign that somebody or something had taught him beyond the curriculum. Hiruzen asked Kakashi Hatake to observe the next field exercise without approaching Naruto unless he saw an immediate threat. Kakashi already knew from restricted records that Naruto was Minato and Kushina's son. He had obeyed Hiruzen's secrecy orders and kept his distance, a choice that now sat badly with him. He arrived at the academy under the ordinary excuse of delivering a report, then saw Naruto's clone make a specific retreating feint before dispersing. Years earlier, Minato had used the same movement during team drills. It was not a secret technique. Any experienced shinobi could invent it. The foot angle, however, was almost identical. Kakashi watched the rest of the exercise. Naruto checked reflections before entering a clearing, touched the ground after distant noises to test vibration, and refused Choji's suggestion to split up, because separation without information created blindness. Minato had taught Kakashi the same principle. Kakashi left without approaching him. A week later, Hiruzen allowed him to return and observe again. Naruto noticed him on the third visit. He asked Minato about the masked Jonin, who kept pretending not to watch him. Minato became still inside the seal. Naruto described silver hair, one visible eye, a forehead protector tilted over the other, and a habit of reading while walking. Minato knew exactly who it was. Minato's hand stopped against the nearest stone pillar, and his attention stayed fixed on the floor for several seconds before he looked back at Naruto. Kakashi had survived. Naruto understood from the reaction that this was not just an old acquaintance. Minato explained that Kakashi had been one of his students. He had been difficult, brilliant, too serious, and much younger than anyone should have been when the war forced him to become dangerous. Kurama muttered that Minato had apparently collected difficult children before Naruto was born. Minato ignored him. From that night onward, Naruto became far more curious about Kakashi. Kakashi became more suspicious of Naruto. The clues multiplied naturally, because Naruto was using years of Minato's teaching without realizing how distinctive some of it was. During one spar, Naruto threw a kunai low, not to hit the target, but to force his opponent to step around a line he had already chosen. Kakashi had seen Minato teach that exact principle. Another time, Naruto corrected a younger student by saying that speed only mattered after the decision was made. Kakashi remembered hearing those words while exhausted on a battlefield years earlier. Then Naruto checked out a beginner book on ceiling arrays from the Academy Library, and returned it with questions written in the margins that most Chunin would not know to ask. Kakashi's curiosity became concern. He began following Naruto, occasionally after class, with Hiruzen's permission. What he found made less sense. Naruto went home alone. He had no secret adult instructor. He sometimes trained in isolated clearings, but no one met him there. He would attempt a movement, fail, sit for a while with his eyes closed, then try again, using a noticeably different method. Kakashi could think of several explanations. None were comfortable. Naruto might have discovered hidden records left by Minato. Someone might be manipulating him. An enemy could be feeding him information. The Nine Tails itself might know more about Konoha's techniques than anyone wanted to consider. Kakashi did not jump to the most impossible answer. Inside the seal, Minato reached a similar conclusion from the opposite direction. He had considered asking Naruto to approach a living adult years earlier. But a small child repeating classified memories would have exposed the secret before he could prove where the information came from. Only after Naruto learned to enter and leave the inner world deliberately while awake could he carry exact questions and exact answers between two people. Now, the secret could not last forever. Naruto was almost 11. His skills were becoming visible. More importantly, Minato could not protect him from outside the seal. If the masked man returned, Naruto needed at least one living adult who understood the danger and could act without waiting for explanations. Minato chose Kakashi. Naruto did not immediately agree. He liked Kakashi from a distance, but handing over the biggest secret of his life felt different. Minato explained that trust always carried risk. He could only choose based on the man Kakashi had been and the evidence Naruto had gathered about the man he had become. Kurama asked whether Minato's judgment had worked perfectly the night he died. The question landed harder than an insult. Minato admitted that it had not. That mattered to Naruto. His father was not pretending certainty where none existed. They prepared a test instead of a confession. Naruto approached Kakashi after an academy session and asked him to meet at an unused training ground after sunset. Kakashi arrived early and checked the area for traps. He found 3. 2 were obvious enough for a talented academy student. The third was a harmless alarm line, hidden in the shadow of a root. Kakashi recognized the knot. Minato had tied wire that way. Naruto appeared from behind a tree and told him that he wanted to answer the question Kakashi had been asking without saying aloud. Kakashi's visible eye sharpened. Naruto then gave him 3 pieces of information. The first was a phrase Minato had used when Kakashi became a Jonin. The second was the location of a tiny crack in the handle of an old training kunai that Minato had kept for years and never listed in any official record. The third was not something Naruto stated. He asked Kakashi to provide a question that only Minato could answer. Kakashi stood motionless for a long time. Then he asked what Minato had said to him on a private night shortly after Rin's death, when Kakashi had blamed himself so completely that he could barely speak. Naruto did not know the answer. He sat beneath a tree, closed his eyes, and deliberately sank his attention into the seal. The stone chamber formed around him. Minato was waiting. Naruto repeated the question. Minato's face tightened. He answered quietly. Naruto returned to the real world and repeated the words exactly enough that Kakashi's hand loosened around the kunai hidden near his sleeve. For once, Kakashi had no prepared expression. He sat down on the grass. Naruto explained the rest. Minato had not left a temporary chakra imprint. His soul was bound to the seal. He had been conscious since Naruto's birth. He could not see through Naruto's eyes or control his body. He could only communicate when Naruto entered the inner world. The complete Nine Tails was sealed behind the gate. Minato's soul acted as the regulator that kept the full beast from overwhelming Naruto's developing chakra network. Kakashi asked for another confirmation, then another. Naruto answered both after speaking with Minato. By the end, Kakashi believed him. Belief did not make the situation easier. Kakashi wanted to know why Hiruzen had not been told. Minato's answer came through Naruto. He had not known whether the masked attacker possessed agents inside Konoha, and for years, Naruto had been too young to survive the consequences if the secret spread. Kakashi understood the fear. He did not fully agree with the decision. That became the first disagreement between the living student and the dead teacher. Naruto found it strangely satisfying. He spent the next half hour carrying messages between them. Kakashi asked technical questions about the seal. Minato answered what he could. Minato asked about the village. Kakashi gave short reports. Kurama inserted insults whenever Naruto entered the inner chamber. At one point, Kakashi asked what Minato thought of his current training methods. Minato said he needed more information. Kurama said Kakashi spent too much time posing with a book. Naruto returned to the training ground and repeated both answers. Kakashi slowly closed the book in his hand, and Naruto laughed so hard he had to sit down. He left the field, knowing that if something went wrong outside the seal, there was finally a living adult he could approach without inventing a lie first. Kakashi kept the secret for 12 days. During those 12 days, he watched Naruto more closely, spoke with Minato through him twice, and inspected the boy's seal from a respectful distance without touching it. The more he learned, the less comfortable he became with being the only living adult who knew. Minato resisted bringing Hiruzen into the circle. His concern was not personal distrust. Hiruzen had been his Hokage. Minato had trusted him with the village. The problem was that the Hokage's office was connected to councils, AMBU reports, medical records, and military systems that created more points where information could leak. The masked attacker had once reached Kushina at the most protected moment of her life. Minato had learned what happened when he assumed a secret was safe because it was inside Konoha. Kakashi argued from the present instead of the past. Naruto was approaching graduation. Soon he would take real missions. If the seal destabilized in the field, the Hokage needed to understand why standard Jinchuriki procedures might fail. If Naruto were captured, Konoha needed to know that it would lose the complete Nine Tails and the soul of the fourth Hokage together. Naruto listened to both sides. Then he became tired of carrying the argument back and forth. He told Minato that he was the person living outside, and he wanted Hiruzen to know. Minato almost answered immediately. Then he stopped. Years earlier, he would have told Naruto what was safest. Now he looked at the 11-year-old standing in the inner chamber and asked why. Naruto explained that he was tired of every adult making decisions around him because of secrets he was not allowed to control. If Hiruzen was going to send him on missions someday, Naruto wanted the old man to understand what he was sending into the field. Minato agreed. The meeting happened at night, in the Hokage's private office. Hiruzen dismissed the guards to the outer corridor and placed a barrier seal around the room. Kakashi stood near the window. Naruto sat across from the Hokage's desk and told the story from the beginning. Hiruzen did not interrupt until Naruto said that Minato's complete soul had been bound into the seal. The old man's pipe stopped halfway to his mouth. For the first time, the strange medical report from the morning after the Nine Tails attack made sense. Hiruzen told Naruto that sealing specialists had examined him as an infant and found a regulating core they could not safely open. They had believed it was an unusually complex piece of Minato's formula. Probing it had tightened the seal and stressed Naruto's heart, so Hiruzen himself had forbidden anyone from trying again unless the child's life depended on it. A human soul bound so tightly into a sealing formula had never been one of their reasonable explanations. Hiruzen still asked for proof. Naruto expected that. The questions lasted almost an hour. Hiruzen asked about missions from Minato's early career, private meetings, sealing procedures, and details from the night of the attack that had never entered public records. Naruto moved in and out of meditation to carry the answers. The final proof came from a decision Hiruzen had made years before Minato became Hokage, after a border operation that had nearly started a war. Only 3 people had known the exact reason for the decision. 2 were dead. Minato remembered. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair and looked older than Naruto had ever seen him. Naruto asked his own. He wanted to know why he had lived alone, why nobody had told him who his parents were, why adults had been allowed to treat him like the Nine Tails, even though village law supposedly protected the secret, why he had needed to learn from his dead father that his mother had a name. Hiruzen answered carefully, but he did not hide behind perfect excuses. Minato's enemies had been one concern. The danger of revealing the identity of the Jinchuriki had been another. The village had been unstable after the attack. Hiruzen had believed that keeping Naruto's parentage hidden would reduce attention around him. As for Naruto's isolation, Hiruzen admitted that the village had failed him more than he had wanted to see. He had provided money, protection, and supervision. He had not provided a home. Naruto's fingers tightened against his knees until the fabric wrinkled under them. He kept his voice controlled, as he said that he understood why secrets existed. He did not accept that understanding a reason made the result good. Later, when he repeated the conversation inside the seal, Minato sat beside him, at the edge of the black water. Minato carried his own share of guilt. He had expected the village to see Naruto as the child who had contained the 9 tails and saved lives. That hope had been naive. He had placed an enormous burden on a newborn and died before seeing the consequences. Naruto told him he was not allowed to turn the conversation into an apology for every bad thing that had ever happened. Kurama snorted behind the gate and said the brat had finally said something intelligent. A few days later, Hiruzen called Naruto back alone and gave him a narrow wooden box that had been kept in the sealed Hokage archives. Most of Minato and Kushina's home had been destroyed during the attack, but a handful of personal effects and the remaining family funds had been preserved under a restricted estate record. The box held a photograph of Minato and Kushina together, one of Kushina's worn hair ties, and an ordinary practice kunai with a nick in the handle that Minato recognized when Naruto showed him the memory. The money would remain in trust until Naruto was older, though Hiruzen increased his monthly allowance immediately. Naruto chose to keep using the Uzumaki name in public because changing it now would draw exactly the attention they were trying to avoid. That choice was finally his, rather than something decided around him. Hiruzen also reopened the investigation into the masked attacker under the highest classification he could impose. Kakashi reviewed old barrier reports and archived records of known Sharingan techniques. Nothing identified a living Konoha shinobi with the space-time ability Minato described. The investigation produced questions rather than a name, but the village was no longer pretending the attacker had disappeared with the Night of the 9 Tails. Hiruzen considered bringing Jiraiya into the secret as well. The Sannin was on a long intelligence circuit, expected to keep him outside Fire Country for more than a year. And Hiruzen refused to put Minato's survival into a written message that could be intercepted. He placed a private order to be informed the moment Jiraiya returned, so the briefing could happen face-to-face. The following week, Hiruzen quietly changed Naruto's security arrangements. He did not move the boy into a guarded compound or lock him away. That would have announced that something important had changed. Instead, Anbu coverage became more consistent. Medical staff were given updated emergency instructions that did not reveal Minato's presence. And Kakashi received permission to conduct private field training with Naruto. Kakashi gave Naruto something Minato could not: a real opponent. Minato's inner demonstrations could teach form, timing, and theory. They could not reproduce the unpredictability of a living Jonin with a real body and years of field experience. Kakashi exploited that immediately. During their first training session, Naruto tried to use the same feint that had worked on academy instructors. Kakashi ignored the clone, stepped through Naruto's intended angle, hooked his ankle, and put him on the ground before the returned memory finished arriving. Naruto got up and tried something else. Kakashi threw him down again. By the end of the afternoon, Naruto had landed one glancing kick and collected 9 bruises. He loved it. Minato reviewed the session that night. Naruto expected technical criticism. Instead, Minato pointed out how often Naruto had looked toward the safest route whenever pressure increased. Kakashi had noticed by the third exchange and started leaving that route open on purpose. The next day, Naruto deliberately chose the more dangerous angle twice. Kakashi noticed that too. Training became a conversation between worlds. Kakashi created physical problems. Naruto attempted solutions. Minato helped him analyze failures afterward. Kurama occasionally pointed out when both human teachers were overcomplicating something obvious. That last part happened more often than Kurama liked to admit. The greatest argument came when Minato decided Naruto was finally ready to learn the Rasengan. Naruto had been asking about it for years. He knew the technique had been Minato's invention. He knew it required no hand signs and compressed rotating chakra into the palm. That description had always sounded simple. It was not. Minato deliberately avoided teaching it the way another instructor might have. He drew 8 tiny marks around the center of Naruto's palm inside the inner world, and made him move chakra past them in changing directions without letting any one current dominate. Outside, Kakashi gave Naruto a shallow metal bowl filled with water and 8 floating leaves. Naruto had to create intersecting currents strong enough to keep every leaf moving while the water stayed inside the rim. He failed for days. He made one clean whirlpool, then another, and each time all 8 leaves surrendered to the strongest current and spun in the same direction. When he tried to overpower the problem, half the water hit him in the face. Kakashi watched from a tree and suggested less force. Naruto said everyone kept telling him to use less chakra, as if his chakra had ever listened politely. Inside the seal that night, Minato explained that the Rasengan needed several rotations held in one space instead of one obedient spiral. Naruto understood the words. His hand still failed. Kurama became irritated after watching the same mistake through Naruto's chakra feedback for nearly 2 weeks. He told Naruto that his chakra always followed the strongest path. If Naruto could not force his own hands to create competing currents at the same time, he should stop pretending he only had one pair of hands. Naruto stared at the gate. Minato stared at Kurama. Kurama immediately said he was not volunteering to teach the technique. Naruto used a shadow clone the next morning. The real Naruto controlled one set of currents. The clone forced a second pattern across them. For the first time, the 8 leaves moved on different paths without the bowl spilling. Kakashi looked at the clone, then at Naruto, and admitted that the solution was ugly. Naruto considered that a compliment. Minato moved him to containment. Kakashi painted a thin ring around Naruto's palm with chakra-sensitive ink. Naruto had to form the rotating mass inside that boundary without letting unstable chakra touch the ring. At first, the ink scorched black almost immediately. Then, he held a rough sphere for 1 second, then 2. His palm cramped. He tore the skin across 2 fingers when the rotation slipped. Once, he lost concentration, and the half-formed chakra sphere kicked sideways hard enough to crack a wooden post. Minato stopped the lesson for 3 days after that. Naruto argued. Minato refused. The disagreement grew into their worst fight since they had met. Naruto accused him of treating every injury like proof that the outside world was about to kill him. Minato replied that Naruto was 11 and too willing to turn pain into a competition. Naruto demanded to know whether Minato wanted a son or a perfectly protected prisoner. The words echoed through the chamber. Kurama lowered his head onto his paws and watched them while Minato ended the conversation early. The next night, Naruto returned and found him standing near one of the stone pillars instead of the usual training area. Minato admitted that he was afraid. The masked man still existed somewhere in his memory as a threat with no name. Minato had died before he could hunt him. Every time Naruto rushed toward danger, part of Minato saw the night of the attack again. Kurama spoke from behind the gate before Naruto could answer. He told Minato that fear had already started shaping the boy's life, long before Naruto knew the reason. Training him to survive was useful. Training him as if every day were preparation for the same enemy was another kind of cage. Minato's jaw tightened. This time, he did not dismiss the fox. The next morning, Naruto returned to Rasengan training with a new agreement. Minato would set safety boundaries. Naruto would respect them. In return, Minato would stop treating every difficult choice as something he needed to make for his son. The technique improved slowly after that. Naruto could form a rough sphere with a clone. Then he could hold it for 2 seconds. Then, 5. The shape became denser, the spinning sound sharpened. He still could not use it reliably in combat. That mattered when graduation arrived. Naruto passed the academy exam on his first attempt. The graduation exam tested skills Naruto had spent years building. His clone technique held its shape. His transformation met the standard. His written score remained average. and his sparring score placed him among the strongest students in the class. Iruka confirmed that he had passed and tied the leaf forehead protector around Naruto's head himself. Naruto touched the metal plate 3 times while walking home, as if checking that the result was still real. That night, he entered the seal wearing it. Minato looked at the symbol of Konoha on his son's forehead for several seconds before speaking. Naruto asked if he looked like a real shinobi now. Minato told him he had looked like one for a long time. The forehead protector only meant the village had finally completed the paperwork. Kurama complained that both of them were becoming sentimental. Naruto walked over to the gate and deliberately polished the metal plate in Kurama's reflection. The fox threatened to bite him if the door ever opened. Graduation changed Naruto's life again. Hiruzen built the new Genin teams around the children they had actually become. Naruto's years of unusual training changed what kind of partners would help him grow, so his assignment took a different shape from the obvious pairing many instructors had expected. Naruto was assigned to Kakashi with Hinata Hyuga and Shikamaru Nara. The choice was practical. Kakashi already knew the truth about the seal. Hinata's Byakugan could observe Naruto's chakra network and detect dangerous irregularities before an ordinary teammate could. Shikamaru had the tactical patience Naruto often lacked. All 3 were talented in ways that could matter during missions, and all 3 needed to learn things the others could teach. Hiruzen did not make the assignment without speaking to the clans involved. Hiyashi, Hyuga, was told that Hinata would be placed on a team likely to receive difficult fieldwork under an elite Jonin, and that her Byakugan made her especially useful around a teammate with an unusual chakra condition. He was not told about Minato. Shikaku Nara was even less surprised. He had already noticed that his son thought faster when other people forced him to care about the answer. Breaking the familiar Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi grouping annoyed several traditionalists, but this graduation class had been reorganized around actual field compatibility rather than preserving every inherited pattern. Both clan heads approved before the lists were posted. Naruto had mixed feelings. He knew Shikamaru well enough to know the boy would call almost any mission troublesome. He knew Hinata as a quiet classmate who was much harder to hit in sparring than people realized. He had expected Sasuke to become his teammate simply because they had spent years measuring themselves against each other. Sasuke was assigned elsewhere. The disappointment lasted until their first conversation after team announcements. Sasuke looked at Naruto's list, then said it meant their next fight would be more interesting because they would learn from different Jonin. Naruto accepted that immediately. Their rivalry did not need matching uniforms to survive. Kakashi met his new team on an open training field instead of a classroom roof. He gave them one objective. A sealed scroll would be placed in a stone box on the far side of a forest training zone. They had until sunset to bring it back to the starting post. Kakashi would enter the forest 10 minutes after them and try to take it. Kakashi kept the test simple and literal. A 3-person team needed to complete a field objective while a superior enemy hunted them. Shikamaru immediately asked whether defeating Kakashi was required. Kakashi said, no. Naruto grinned because that meant running was allowed. Hinata quietly activated her Byakugan and studied the tree line. The first 10 minutes showed how badly they needed each other. Naruto wanted to move fast and reach the scroll before Kakashi entered. Shikamaru argued that a straight rush would make their return route predictable. Hinata spotted 3 prepared wire traps within the first 100 meters and proved that Kakashi had set the field before they arrived. They compromised. Naruto sent one shadow clone ahead along the obvious route. Hinata guided the real pair around trap clusters. Shikamaru marked terrain that could later support his shadow technique. The clone reached the stone box first and found Kakashi waiting behind it. A strike dispersed Naruto's clone before it could touch the scroll. The returned memory revealed the trick. The Kakashi at the box was a shadow clone prepared before the test began, while the real Kakashi had still honored the 10-minute delay outside the forest. Naruto complained that planting a defender in advance was unfair. Shikamaru reminded him that Kakashi had promised them a head start, not an empty battlefield. Naruto hated the distinction because it was completely reasonable. Kakashi began applying pressure. He appeared once on their left and threw 3 harmless practice kunai that forced them right. Hinata detected another chakra signature ahead. Naruto assumed it was a clone and wanted to break through. Shikamaru stopped him. The 2 Kakashis were herding them toward a narrow ravine. Naruto understood the trap 1 second before a wire net dropped from the trees. Hinata cut one line with a precise strike. Naruto pulled Shikamaru backward. The net missed all 3 by less than a meter. Instead of moving toward the scroll, they spent 20 minutes making themselves harder to track. Naruto created 2 clones and sent them in different directions. Hinata located Kakashi's nearest chakra signature. Shikamaru predicted which clone Kakashi would chase based on terrain. Then, they went the opposite way. They reached the stone box near midday. The scroll was real. The problem was getting back. Kakashi attacked seriously enough to expose every weakness in their teamwork. Naruto protected the scroll and became the obvious target. Hinata tried to cover him and left Shikamaru isolated. Shikamaru attempted to trap Kakashi's shadow, but Naruto moved into the same line and forced him to release the technique. Kakashi took the scroll in 6 seconds. Naruto chased him. Shikamaru shouted for him to stop. Naruto almost ignored him. Then he remembered Minato asking a question that had become common during the past year. What do you want to accomplish? Not, what do you want to hit? Naruto stopped. They did not need to defeat Kakashi. They needed the scroll at the starting post by sunset. For the first time that day, Naruto let Shikamaru build the entire plan. They spent the next hour preparing one trap around a shallow stream where the tree cover narrowed. Hinata tracked Kakashi from far enough away to avoid engagement. Naruto made his remaining clones visible on purpose and let Kakashi destroy them one by one. Each returned memory gave the real Naruto another piece of information about how Kakashi approached. Kakashi favored high branches when he believed Naruto was frustrated. He changed height before throwing. He checked shadows whenever Shikamaru disappeared from sight. Naruto appeared alone near the stream and charged Kakashi with the recklessness his teacher expected. Kakashi moved to the higher branch. Hinata had already cut partway through its base with controlled, gentle fist strikes to the wood. The branch dropped under Kakashi's weight. He recovered instantly and landed on the water. That was where Shikamaru had been waiting behind a stone outcrop. His shadow reached across the flat surface and touched Kakashi's for less than 2 seconds. 2 seconds were enough. Naruto did not attack Kakashi. A shadow clone emerged from beneath the bank, grabbed the scroll from Kakashi's exposed pouch, and ran. Kakashi broke the shadow bind almost immediately. He could have caught the clone. Hinata stepped between them, knowing she could not win and needing only a moment. Naruto joined her. They forced Kakashi to spend 4 seconds moving around them instead of through them. The clone reached the starting post before Kakashi reached the edge of the forest. Sunset was still hours away. Kakashi looked at the 3 exhausted genin and declared that they had passed. Inside the seal, that night, Naruto expected Minato to praise the trap. Minato was more interested in the moment Naruto had stopped chasing Kakashi. Naruto had changed the goal in his own head, trusted someone else's plan, and used his strength where the team needed it. Kurama said the entire test had been unnecessarily complicated, and that he would have solved it by flattening the forest. Shikamaru was not there to hear that, which Naruto considered fortunate. Team Kakashi became official the next morning. Their first weeks as genin were intentionally boring. Kakashi made them carry messages, clear fallen trees from a road, escort a merchant across 2 districts, locate a missing child, and spend an entire afternoon checking old boundary markers around a farming village. Naruto complained loudly about the work, until Shikamaru pointed out that he had complained just as loudly about being forced to wait for graduation. Hinata improved fastest when nobody was watching her, as if she might break. Her Byakugan turned routine assignments into lessons in observation. She could see loose nails inside a bridge support, animals hiding beyond a hedge, and chakra traces left by careless shinobi. Naruto began asking what she saw, instead of assuming he already knew. Shikamaru learned that Naruto could follow a plan as long as someone explained the reason behind it. Naruto learned that Shikamaru's laziness disappeared the moment a situation became dangerous. Kakashi learned that his team argued constantly and still moved toward each other whenever anything went wrong. Naruto reported all of this inside the seal after their first week. Kurama decided that Shikamaru sounded sensible because he slept whenever humans invented unnecessary work. Minato pointed out that sleeping through an ambush was not a philosophy. Kurama said humans ruined every good idea by adding details. The mission that changed Team Kakashi began with a damaged barrier tag. A chain of small warning seals ran along a quiet section of the northeastern Fire Country border. The markers served patrols and couriers by reporting small disturbances along the route. If one was broken, the nearby watchpost recorded the location. If several vanished in sequence, patrol routes changed. For almost a month, someone had been damaging individual tags just often enough to create confusion. 2 civilian couriers had also disappeared on the road between a supply village and the border post. There was no confirmed enemy shinobi presence, and the affected area remained well inside Fire Country. Hiruzen assigned Kakashi to escort 2 barrier specialists who needed to inspect the line and replace the damaged seals. Team Kakashi would go as support. On paper, the mission sat near the upper edge of a normal genin assignment. Kakashi read the report twice and packed as if it were worse. Naruto noticed. Before leaving, he entered the seal and told Minato where they were going. Minato knew the old border routes, but several years had changed roads and outposts. He did not pretend his map was current. Instead, he reminded Naruto what repeated damage usually meant. Someone was testing response time, not simply destroying property. Kurama said humans had an impressive talent for turning lines on the ground into reasons to kill each other. Naruto told him foxes did not have countries because no one wanted to share a border with him. Kurama's tail struck the floor behind the gate. The journey took 4 days. Kakashi kept the pace moderate because the 2 specialists carried sealing ink, replacement tags, and survey equipment. One specialist was an older man named Senta, who had spent 30 years repairing Konoha's outer barrier network. The other was a younger woman named Aya, who could detect small disruptions in prepared seal lines, but had little combat experience. Naruto expected enemies around every bend during the first day. By the second, boredom returned. Shikamaru slept whenever they stopped. Hinata practiced maintaining the Byakugan in short controlled periods while walking. Naruto used a shadow clone to scout ahead until Kakashi made him stop wasting chakra on roads where they had no evidence of danger. That correction mattered later. They reached the supply village on the 4th afternoon and immediately found the first contradiction in the mission report. The missing couriers had not disappeared on random days. Both had vanished after delivering updated patrol schedules to the border post. Someone had known what they were carrying. Kakashi changed the mission classification in his own notes and sent a coded message back to Konoha by Hawk. They left before sunrise the next morning. The damaged tagline began 3 hours north of the village. Senta knelt beside the first broken marker and brushed dirt from the paper remains. The tag had not been torn down. Someone had driven a needle of foreign chakra into one narrow part of the formula, causing it to report a false disturbance before burning itself out. That required training. Kakashi ordered the genin into a tighter formation. Hinata activated her Byakugan. For the next kilometer, nothing moved except birds and small animals. Then she stopped. There was a body beneath the road. The team found one of the missing couriers buried in a shallow space under packed earth beside a drainage ditch. He had been dead for several days. His message pouch was gone. Naruto stared at the man's sandals protruding from the dirt, while Senta covered the body with a cloth. This was the first dead person Naruto had seen outside old memorial photographs. His stomach tightened. The training ground suddenly felt very far away. Kakashi did not give him a speech. He simply asked Hinata to scan again, and Shikamaru to identify likely observation points. Work pulled Naruto's attention back into the present. They found the second ambush site before noon. Shikamaru noticed that the road curved around a rocky rise, with thick brush on one side and a dry creek bed on the other. Hinata saw faint chakra residue on 2 branches above the creek. Naruto found a piece of cut wire hidden in the grass. Kakashi decided not to walk into it. They left a visible set of tracks on the road, then moved under tree cover along the ridge. Naruto created one shadow clone wearing Senta's spare outer jacket and sent it down the obvious path beside a transformed log that looked like Aya carrying supplies. The attack came exactly where expected. 2 shinobi dropped from opposite sides of the road. The first attacker threw a cluster of weighted wires around Naruto's clone, while the second launched Senbon toward the transformed log. The clone dispersed. The log returned to normal, and Kakashi dropped from above. Against 2 infiltrators who had expected civilians, his advantage was immediate. The attackers had prepared the road for exactly that problem. Explosive tags buried beneath the dirt detonated in a chain and split the terrain, raising a wall of dust and broken stone between Kakashi and the team. One infiltrator retreated through the confusion, while the other charged the genin. He wore unmarked field clothing and carried a short metal baton wrapped in pale lightning chakra. But the weapon style and movement already suggested training from the land of lightning. Shikamaru's first shadow missed because the man changed direction before stepping into range. Hinata moved forward. Her Byakugan caught the attack Naruto almost missed. A thin lightning wire extended from the baton toward the ground, using the dust as cover. It was aimed at their feet. Hinata called the warning. Naruto jumped and pulled Aya with him. Shikamaru rolled behind a broken stone. The wire discharged across the earth and burned a black line through the road. The Cloud Shinobi closed on Hinata before she landed. She blocked the first baton strike with both forearms and redirected the second with gentle fist. The weapon still carried enough lightning to numb her left hand. Naruto attacked from the side with a clone. The enemy struck the clone first. Naruto used the burst of smoke to come low at the knee. The man expected a punch. Naruto threw a kunai into the dirt behind him instead. A wire tied to its ring snapped tight around the man's ankle when Naruto rolled away. The trap did not hold him. He ripped the wire free with one step. It held him long enough for Hinata to land 2 precise strikes near his right shoulder. His baton arm weakened. Shikamaru's shadow reached for him again. The enemy recognized the technique and jumped backward onto the rock face. Naruto sent 2 shadow clones after him from different heights. One threw kunai, the other attacked directly. The Cloud Shinobi destroyed both with efficient baton strikes, but the returned memories showed Naruto something useful. Every time the man used lightning through the baton, he shifted his grip and exposed 2 fingers for a fraction of a second. Naruto stopped attacking. The enemy mistook the pause for fear and rushed him. Naruto waited. The baton came down with enough lightning to break bone, even without a direct hit. Naruto moved left at the last possible moment and caught the exposed fingers with both hands. He did not have the strength to hold the adult shinobi. He did not need to. Hinata struck the man's wrist from the other side. The baton fell. Shikamaru's shadow touched his heel. This time, the bind lasted. Kakashi appeared through the settling dust a second later and ended the fight with one precise blow to the back of the man's neck. The second infiltrator had escaped. Kakashi did not chase immediately. The safety of his team and the 2 specialists came first. They searched the captured man and found cloud equipment hidden under local travel clothing. More worrying was a compact set of coded tags used for short information bursts. One slot in the case was empty. The escaping shinobi had probably carried a matching tag. Kakashi questioned the prisoner after binding his chakra. The man gave only his rank, a false civilian name, and insults. Senta inspected the coded case and confirmed that one tag could reach another prepared tag within several kilometers. It was not enough for detailed messages, but a chain of tags hidden along a route could relay a prearranged code much farther. The empty slot meant the enemy might already have such a chain in place. The team had no way to know what signal had already been sent. Kakashi's first instinct was to turn south and withdraw. But the direct road back to the supply village was the same road the enemy had prepared and observed. Night was less than 2 hours away. Hinata's hand was injured, and Senta and Aya were carrying equipment that made a fast cross-country retreat impossible. The older watch station sat on a stone ridge with one narrow approach, an emergency barrier frame, stored water, and a hawk perch. Kakashi chose it as a temporary strongpoint until daylight and reinforcement, not as a place to continue the original mission. He laid a false trail farther south before moving the group into the hills. They reached the station after dark. Hinata's left hand still tingled from the lightning strike. Aya treated the minor burn. Naruto had a cut above his eyebrow and bruises along one shoulder. Shikamaru had escaped with little more than dirt and a growing dislike of border missions. Kakashi sent another hawk to Konoha, requesting reinforcement and reporting confirmed Cloud involvement. Naruto wanted to ask Minato what the enemy might do next. He did not. The mission was active. His teammates were awake. He could not close his eyes whenever uncertainty appeared. Instead, he laid the captured equipment on the floor with Shikamaru and tried to reason through it. The saboteurs had been studying patrol response. They had taken schedules. They had prepared ambushes designed to separate a jonin from weaker escorts. That suggested reconnaissance rather than invasion. The escaped operative now knew a Konoha Genin team was involved. Hinata added one detail. During the fight, she had seen the enemy look directly at Naruto's abdomen after one of his shadow clones dispersed. The glance had been brief but deliberate. Naruto felt cold despite the closed room. Kakashi asked exactly what she had seen in Naruto at that moment. Hinata hesitated. She had been trained not to stare at another person's chakra network without reason. In combat, however, she had noticed something strange. A second chakra lay far deeper than Naruto's own, compressed behind layers of ceiling structure. She could not measure its full size. She only knew the pressure was far greater than anything she had ever seen. Kakashi asked whether the Cloud Shinobi could have sensed the same thing. Hinata said, not without a dojutsu or specialized sensing technique. The escaped operative had barely looked at Naruto. That meant someone else had been watching. Kakashi ordered a full scan of the surrounding hills. Hinata found a faint chakra signature almost 2 kilometers away, moving north. The discovery changed more than their immediate mission. Kakashi warned them that if a foreign sensor identified Naruto as Konoha's Jinchuriki and carried reliable information about his seal away from Fire Country, other villages would eventually ask questions. Every major village watched the military value and stability of the others' tailed beasts. They had been observed by a sensor. The real danger began then. The escaped Cloud operative reached a hidden camp before midnight. The sensor waiting there had spent the fight reading chakra through a network of tiny tags planted around the road. She had felt Naruto's chakra split when shadow clones formed. Beneath it, she had sensed another chakra signature with the unmistakable weight and texture of a tailed beast. Her experience around Cloud's own Jinchuriki was enough to identify the presence as the 9 tails, but not to measure exactly how much of Kurama was sealed there. What shocked her was the structure. The beast's chakra sat behind a deep, coherent regulator instead of battering randomly against a weak child's network. Konoha's Jinchuriki was a 12-year-old genin whose seal appeared stable enough for fieldwork. The sensor reported to their commander, Daizen, an experienced Cloud Jonin who had spent years on capture and counterintelligence missions. Their orders had been simple before that night. Test Fire Country's border responses. Steal updated patrol information. Avoid open conflict unless necessary. Cloud Field Doctrine gave commanders one dangerous exception. If an enemy Jinchuriki became isolated outside a fortified settlement and extraction looked possible, the commander could attempt a live capture without waiting for new orders. The rule existed because the opportunity might vanish before a messenger reached home, and because a failed field commander could later be disowned if politics demanded it. Daizen knew the exception was meant for rare circumstances. He also saw a target that looked unusually vulnerable. Naruto was 12, traveling with 2 other genin and 1 jonin, and the specialist slowed any retreat. The sensor could track the deeper tailed beast signature, even through shadow clones. Daisen had 5 combat shinobi still free in the area, including the operative who had escaped the road, while the censor remained farther north. He also carried suppression seals designed to hold high chakra prisoners long enough for transport. They were not built to contain a tailed beast, and Daisen did not pretend they were. His plan was to keep Naruto from reaching Kurama's power for the few minutes needed to separate him from Kakashi and move him north. The risk was enormous. Daisen decided the possible reward justified it. He chose the road south of the watch station and built a retreat that looked accidental. Kakashi saw the bait the next morning. One Cloud Scout deliberately revealed himself at long range, then fled north instead of toward the border. It looked like panic from a unit whose ambush had failed. Kakashi did not chase. The scout's second job was more important than drawing pursuit. He carried one of the relay tags and had orders to survive long enough to take a full report north if the capture failed. Daisen's next move targeted the specialists. A burst of lightning struck the old watch station from the forest and ignited part of the wooden roof. At the same time, 2 enemy signatures appeared west of the hill. Hinata detected another east. Kakashi understood the pattern. They were forcing him to choose between defending the station and stopping multiple escape routes. He chose the team. Everyone abandoned the building together. Senta kept the first captured Cloud operative attached to him with a chakra-binding tether, rather than leaving a prisoner inside a burning station. Daisen changed the battlefield beneath them. 4 prepared metal spikes erupted from the ground when they crossed a narrow saddle between hills. Lightning jumped between the spikes and formed a crackling barrier that cut Kakashi and Senta away from the Genin. Kakashi destroyed the nearest spike with Chidori almost immediately. As the barrier failed, he created one shadow clone and sent it across the narrowing gap toward the eastern slope. Then a second layer of explosive tags collapsed the ground between them. Naruto, Hinata, Shikamaru, and Aya slid down the eastern side through dirt and broken branches. Kakashi landed on the opposite ridge, with Senta, the bound prisoner, and 2 Cloud shinobi already attacking him. The separation would last minutes at most. Against Genin, minutes were enough. Daisen came down the slope after Naruto. Shikamaru recognized the target before Naruto did. He shouted for them to move away from the road and into denser trees where sightlines were shorter. Hinata scanned ahead. 2 more Cloud shinobi were waiting there. The team was being funneled. Naruto created 3 shadow clones while running. One took Aya and broke left toward a narrow drainage cut in the hillside. Aya carried folded emergency barrier sheets with the survey equipment. So Naruto ordered the clone to get her behind stone and help her seal the entrance instead of trying to win a fight. 1 Cloud shinobi pursued them. The other waiting operative moved to cut off Shikamaru. The real Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru went right. Daisen did not follow the obvious Naruto. He followed the real one. The censor had given Daisen one crucial advantage before the ambush. Shadow clones copied Naruto's surface chakra well enough to confuse ordinary observation, but only the original carried the immense second presence sealed deep behind his own network. From a concealed position, the censor relayed the direction of that deeper core to a paired tag on Daisen's wrist. For this fight, Naruto could still use clones for tactics, but hiding the original among them would not work. Daisen appeared beside him with a speed Naruto had only experienced against Kakashi. A short blade, coated in pale lightning, cut through Naruto's sleeve and scored his upper arm before he could turn. Hinata attacked Daisen's flank. He blocked her palm with a reinforced forearm guard and struck her ribs with his elbow. She flew into a tree hard enough to lose the Byakugan for a moment. Shikamaru's shadow raced over the ground. Daisen stepped onto a sunlit rock and jumped beyond its reach. He knew their techniques. Naruto threw 2 kunai, one high and one low. Daisen deflected both. Naruto used the sound to hide a shadow clone approaching from behind. Daisen sensed it anyway and drove his heel through the clone's chest. The memory returned. Naruto understood the problem. This man was not simply stronger. He had been briefed on them. Every obvious tactic had already been priced into his plan. Naruto changed the goal. Winning was impossible, while Daisen controlled the distance. They needed to survive until Kakashi broke through. He called to Shikamaru and pointed toward a narrow section between three large trees. Shikamaru understood. Naruto attacked recklessly on purpose. Daisen expected impatience from a 12-year-old. He stepped inside Naruto's wide punch and drove a knee toward his stomach. Naruto let one shadow clone take the hit. The real Naruto came from below and slapped a prepared storage tag against the ground. The tag released every spare coil of wire Naruto had packed for the mission. The wire did not trap Daisen. It filled the space around his feet and forced him to jump. Shikamaru's shadow could not catch him in the air. Hinata could. She had recovered enough to see his landing point. She struck at the ground just before he landed, sending a burst of chakra through the thin layer of soil around his foot. Daisen's balance shifted for a fraction of a second. Shikamaru caught his shadow. Daisen froze. Naruto moved in with the unfinished Rasengan forming between his hands and a clone's. The sphere shook violently. Daisen's eyes narrowed. Lightning exploded from his body. The discharge ran through the ground and shocked Shikamaru badly enough to break the shadow bind. Daisen twisted aside before Naruto arrived. The unstable Rasengan struck a tree instead. Wood burst outward. The trunk split halfway through. Naruto's attack had missed. Daisen's counter did not. The lightning-coated blade cut across Naruto's side and threw him into the dirt. Pain burned from his ribs to his hip. The Rasengan vanished. Daisen kicked the shadow clone apart, then threw two marked cords toward Naruto. The cords wrapped his wrists and tightened. Black seal characters crawled across the material. Naruto felt his chakra become heavy. These were suppression bindings. He tried to create another clone and failed. Hinata rushed Daisen again. The Cloud Jonin used Naruto as bait. He shifted behind the bound boy and forced Hinata to slow her strike. Then he drove his blade hilt into her shoulder and sent her down. Shikamaru attempted another shadow angle from behind a tree. A Cloud Chunin arrived from the woods and engaged him before the technique connected. The battle fractured. Naruto tried to stand. Daisen placed a second suppression tag against his jacket. This seal reacted to the chakra beneath Naruto's own. For the first time, the man's controlled expression changed. The tag should have found a violent reservoir pushing against a Jinchuriki seal. Instead, it encountered a massive presence sitting behind a structured regulator. Daisen understood enough to know the sensor had been right about Naruto being an unusually stable Jinchuriki. He said Konoha had hidden something extraordinary. Naruto answered by trying to headbutt him. Daisen caught his forehead and slammed him back into the ground. The world flashed white, and Naruto dropped into the black water of the inner chamber, while his real body lay dazed in Daisen's grip. Minato was already moving toward the regulating lines because the suppression tags were pressing against the seal from outside. Naruto demanded a plan. Minato almost gave him one, then forced himself to ask what Naruto actually knew. Minato could feel pain, fear, and the pressure on the seal, but he could not see Daisen, count enemies, or know where Hinata and Shikamaru had moved. In broken sentences, he described Daisen's speed, the habit of resetting to the right, Hinata's injury, Shikamaru's position, and the fact that Kakashi only needed time to break through. Minato tightened one leaking channel while Naruto spoke. When Naruto finished, Minato told him that any detailed plan Minato invented from inside the seal would be a guess. Naruto had the battlefield. Minato could keep the regulator from tearing while Naruto used it. Kurama lowered his head behind the gate. The suppression bindings outside were pressing directly against his chakra, and the sensation reminded him of every human cage he had ever known. He offered Naruto a narrow stream of power with no bargain attached. Cloud was not taking either of them. Minato warned that the regulator could guide only a small amount safely because Naruto had never carried Kurama's chakra deliberately in combat. Naruto kept the gate closed and placed his palm between two bars. Kurama raised one claw to the other side, and a thread of red-orange chakra crossed the boundary. Minato caught the flow through the regulator and narrowed it before it reached Naruto's network. The inner exchange consumed the same few seconds that Naruto remained stunned in the real world. He returned with a decision, rather than extra training. The chakra hit him like heat, poured into his bones, then settled when he stopped resisting its path through channels his body had spent 12 years developing. Outside, Naruto's eyes opened. Daisen had one hand on his suppression bindings and the other reaching for an additional seal. A thin red-orange aura appeared around Naruto's skin. The first binding tag blackened. Daisen released it instantly and jumped back. Naruto returned to the clearing with his mind intact. Kurama's chakra sharpened every sound and made his body feel dangerously light. Yet his thoughts remained clear enough to choose each movement. The cords around his wrists strained. He pulled once, they snapped. Daisen reacted exactly like an experienced Jonin. He did not freeze in surprise. He threw 3 suppression tags at Naruto while moving away, then formed lightning around both forearms. Naruto dodged the first tag. The second brushed his shoulder and slowed the cloak for an instant. He slapped it away before the formula closed. The third never reached him. Hinata, still on one knee, struck it out of the air with a kunai. Naruto moved. Kurama's chakra did not make him equal to Daisen in experience. It changed the speed of the exchange enough that Naruto could finally use what he had learned. Daisen slashed high. Naruto ducked and felt lightning pull at his hair. He threw a punch. Daisen blocked and discovered that the force had changed completely. His boots slid half a meter through the dirt. Naruto did not chase the opening. That was what Daisen expected. Instead, Naruto created one shadow clone. The clone went left. Daisen's eyes tracked the real Naruto because the sensor's information had taught him to distinguish the chakra split. That was the trap. The clone did not attack Daisen. It grabbed Shikamaru by the back of his vest and pulled him out of the Cloud Chunin's next strike. Shikamaru hit the ground, rolled, and immediately extended his shadow through the long strip of shade beneath the trees. Daisen saw it and moved right. Hinata was waiting there. She could not overpower him. Her shoulder was injured, and her breathing had become uneven. She only needed one accurate strike. Her Byakugan showed the flow of lightning gathering through Daisen's right arm. She hit the Tenketsu near his elbow. The lightning flickered. Daisen drove his left hand into her chest and threw her backward, but the interruption changed his next movement. Naruto had spent the entire first exchange learning that Daisen shifted right whenever his dominant arm needed space to reset. He did it again. Naruto's clone had already returned from helping Shikamaru. Together, Naruto and the clone formed the Rasengan. This time, Naruto did not try to force more power into the sphere, because Kurama's chakra was available. He used his own chakra for the technique, and Kurama's only to support his body and speed. Rotation formed first. Containment followed. Daisen saw it and changed direction at the last instant. Naruto had expected that too. Shikamaru's shadow touched Daisen's left foot from behind. It did not hold his whole body. Daisen tore free almost immediately. The delay lasted less than a heartbeat. Naruto needed less. He drove the Rasengan into the reinforced guard over Daisen's right shoulder instead of aiming for the center of his chest. The spinning chakra chewed through the metal brace, shattered the lightning coating, and hurled the Jonin sideways into the trunk of a tree. The impact cracked the bark. Daisen's head snapped against the wood, and he collapsed before the blade in his left hand cleared its sheath. Naruto let the Rasengan disperse and stepped back toward Hinata and Shikamaru as the red-orange cloak began to flicker. He had reached the limit of the chakra Kurama had given him, but Daisen was already down. Kakashi landed beside the unconscious Jonin a moment later, checked that he was alive, and secured both wrists with binding wire. Naruto's attack had ended the fight without requiring another burst of power. The Cloud Chunin fighting Shikamaru tried to flee. Shikamaru delayed him with a shadow catch, and Kakashi's shadow clone intercepted from the trees. The clone had reached Aya first. Naruto's escort clone had guided her into the drainage cut, and helped her raise one of the emergency barrier sheets before dispersing under the pursuing shinobi's attack. Aya had stayed behind the sealed stone while the enemy tried to break through. Kakashi's clone arrived before he succeeded, subdued him, and then moved toward the main fight. The real Kakashi had already dropped the two shinobi on the western ridge and left Senta behind the emergency barrier with the original prisoner before crossing the broken slope. Within another minute, Daisen and every attacker who had committed to the capture were bound. 2 members of the Cloud Cell were missing. The scout who had shown himself before the attack had used the first diversion to retreat north, and the remote sensor had never entered the battlefield at all. Kakashi sent a hawk after the reinforcements with that information as soon as he could. Those 2 escapees were now the most likely route by which a detailed report would reach Cloud. Naruto stood in the clearing, while the red-orange chakra peeled away from his skin like heat leaving metal. The moment it vanished, exhaustion hit. His knees gave out. Hinata caught one arm. Shikamaru grabbed the other with visible annoyance and told Naruto that becoming heavier after a battle was inconsiderate. Naruto tried to answer and discovered that his mouth was too dry. Kakashi checked his injuries before anything else. The cut along Naruto's side was painful but shallow. The suppression cords had bruised both wrists. Kurama's chakra had raised his pulse and temperature, but the seal remained stable. Hinata looked at Naruto with the Byakugan active. What she saw made her forget her own shoulder for a moment. The great chakra behind Naruto's seal was already settling. Hinata saw a narrow channel that had opened long enough to pass power into Naruto, and then closed cleanly, while the pressure behind the main gate remained stable. The movement had been deliberate from both sides. She told Kakashi that the Nine Tails had not broken through. The chakra had been given. Kakashi understood how significant that was. Naruto was too tired to celebrate. Inside the seal that night, after medics at the border post forced him to sleep, he found Kurama lying with his muzzle resting on his paws. Naruto thanked him. Kurama said not to become annoying about it. Naruto asked when they could do it again. The fox opened one eye and told him that he had just survived the first attempt by a margin too small for pride. Minato agreed. Naruto complained that the 2 of them were already cooperating against him. Kurama immediately insisted they were doing no such thing. Minato laughed. Naruto looked from his father to the fox and realized he was smiling too. Konoha's reinforcements arrived the following afternoon. The captured Cloud Shinobi were transferred under ANBU guard. Daisen survived the Rasengan, though his right shoulder required extensive medical treatment before interrogation could begin. A reinforcement squad followed the northern tracks and located the abandoned Cloud camp. They recovered the stolen patrol schedules, several relay tags, and the remains of the second missing courier. The man had been kept alive long enough to be questioned, then killed when the cell prepared to move. His family received a confirmed report instead of an unresolved disappearance. Senta and Aya stayed with the reinforcement unit for 2 more days, while a fresh team rebuilt the damaged barrier line and replaced every patrol schedule the Cloud Cell had stolen. Kakashi's report made one thing clear. The enemy unit had started as a reconnaissance cell. The decision to capture Naruto had been made in the field under a standing Cloud contingency after they identified him as Konoha's Jinchuriki and judged him temporarily isolated. That distinction worried Hiruzen. It meant the attempt had not required months of preparation. A capable enemy commander had seen a rare opportunity and decided the political risk was acceptable. Team Kakashi returned home 11 days after leaving. The village looked almost offensively normal. Market stalls were open. Children ran between buildings. A chunin complained about paperwork outside the mission office. Naruto had spent days thinking about border lines, ambushes, and suppression seals. Yet, the old woman selling vegetables near his apartment still argued with a customer over the price of radishes. He liked that more than he expected. Hiruzen ordered all 4 members of Team Kakashi to report separately. Shikamaru described the tactics of the Cloud unit with exhausting precision once his father made it clear that sleeping through the debrief was not an option. Hinata gave a detailed account of the chakra movement she had observed inside Naruto. Kakashi reported the known facts about Minato's stabilizing seal to Hiruzen alone after the standard meeting ended. Naruto's medical examination lasted most of a morning. The doctors found no structural damage to his chakra network. The red-orange cloak had stressed his muscles, raised his temperature, and caused small tears around several high-flow points. But everything was already healing. The result supported the safety limits of Minato's original design. Naruto's body had spent 12 years adapting to Kurama behind a controlled barrier. A narrow voluntary release was dangerous, but survivable. That did not mean it was safe to repeat casually. Kakashi gave Naruto the same warning. Minato gave it again that night. Kurama called both of them repetitive. Naruto pointed out that Kurama had been the one who told him he survived by a narrow margin. After the medical examination, Kakashi kept Naruto, Hinata, and Shikamaru in a sealed room for one more conversation. Naruto did not reveal Minato. That secret still belonged to a much smaller circle. He did tell them plainly that the Nine Tails was sealed inside him, and that the red chakra they had seen came from Kurama. Shikamaru stared at him for several seconds and said that the explanation was troublesome but not surprising. Hinata had already seen enough with the Byakugan to know the important part. The chakra in the final fight had not burst through the seal. It had moved because Naruto and Kurama allowed it to move. Kakashi explained that Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki was classified operational information, even if older villagers already knew pieces of the story. Shikamaru said he did not need every secret Naruto owned in order to know who had stood beside him at the border. Hinata agreed. Neither promised to stop asking sensible questions forever, but both agreed not to carry the information into clan gossip or academy conversation. Hiyashi and Shikaku received the mission facts their positions required. They were told that Naruto had used controlled tailed beast chakra under Kakashi's supervision. They were not told that the fourth Hokage was still inside the seal. The fox decided the conversation was over. Hiruzen had a more difficult problem outside the seal. Kumo denied everything. Their official response claimed that the standing field exception did not authorize an assault that deep inside Fire Country. That Daizen had exceeded his discretion, and that no order from the Raikage had approved an attack on a Leaf Jinchuriki. The wording let Cloud admit that Daizen belonged to them, while denying responsibility for the decision that mattered. Konoha did not believe the explanation completely. It also had no interest in starting a war over a covert mission that both sides preferred to keep quiet. For the moment, the prisoners remained leverage. The larger secret was harder to contain. Konoha's barrier specialists recovered 3 relay tags between the abandoned Cloud Camp and the northern frontier. The first burst had not crossed half a country by itself. It had hopped from one prepared tag to the next until it reached a forward point, close enough for Cloud messengers to carry the code onward. More importantly, the scout and remote sensor had escaped the battlefield and crossed north before Fire Country patrols could close the route. Konoha could not know how much they had reported, but Hiruzen had to assume Cloud now knew Naruto was the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, had an unusually stable seal, and had accessed Fox Chakra without losing his mind. Within 2 weeks, Fire Country patrols reported unfamiliar scouts near 2 other border regions. None approached Konoha directly. None tried to attack Naruto. Konoha's private diplomatic protest to Cloud, the sudden reinforcement of Cloud border units, and merchant stories about a red chakra flare near the northeastern road created enough noise for other intelligence networks to notice that something had happened. The pattern looked like what Minato had warned about years earlier. Other villages were beginning to ask questions. Naruto was frustrated by how much of the response happened in rooms he could not enter. He wanted to train. He wanted another mission. He wanted to understand exactly how Kurama's chakra had felt before memory softened the details. Kakashi refused to let him do any of those things for several days. Recovery became part of the lesson. Naruto spent the time with his team. Hinata's shoulder healed quickly, but the bruising along her ribs kept her from full sparring. Shikamaru had a minor lightning burn, where Daizen's discharge had traveled through the ground and broken his shadow bind. Both injuries had happened because they stayed in the fight with Naruto instead of abandoning him. Naruto did not know how to thank them without making the conversation uncomfortable. He bought lunch instead. Shikamaru accepted immediately, because free food required little effort. Hinata understood what Naruto was trying to say and let him avoid saying it. Their team changed after the border mission. Before it, they had passed a test together. After it, they knew what the others did when a plan broke. Shikamaru had seen Naruto stop trying to win alone when the stronger opponent made that impossible. Hinata had seen him trust her timing with his life. Naruto had watched both of them keep moving while injured because the team still needed them. Kakashi noticed the difference in their next training session. He attacked from the trees without warning and expected the usual confusion. Shikamaru moved before Naruto shouted anything. Hinata covered the blind angle. Naruto created one clone and used it to feed information, instead of rushing forward. Kakashi still beat all three. It took him much longer. That night, Minato reviewed the memories Naruto chose to show him. He praised the improved coordination, corrected Naruto's footwork, and began explaining why the Rasengan had finally stabilized during the fight. Naruto interrupted him. He wanted to know why Minato had not told him exactly what to do after Daisen knocked him unconscious. Minato answered that he had almost tried. The old habit had been difficult to stop. Then the suppression tags had pressed against the regulator and reminded him of the limit he could never train away. He had not known which teammate could still move, or where Daisen would step next. Any detailed order would have been built from Naruto's incomplete explanation and Minato's assumptions. For years, Minato had treated every lesson as preparation for the moment Naruto might face the masked man who had destroyed their family. At the border, he finally understood that being a good father did not mean filling every uncertain moment with an order. His job inside the seal had been to keep the channel stable and help Naruto think through the facts Naruto actually possessed. If Naruto never learned to solve unfamiliar situations with his own eyes and judgment, then all the training had failed. Naruto considered that and asked whether this meant Minato would stop correcting him. Minato said absolutely not. Kurama made a sound that was suspiciously close to amusement. Naruto threw a pebble at the gate. The next stage of training changed because Kurama was now part of the discussion, whether he admitted it or not. Minato wanted Naruto to learn how to accept a tiny amount of Kurama's chakra while standing still, before ever trying to use it in another fight. Naruto agreed. Kurama initially claimed the border incident had been a one-time exception. 3 nights later, he corrected Minato's proposed flow route. Minato pointed out that this sounded like participation. Kurama told him to be quiet and continued explaining. They worked with less chakra than Naruto had used against Daisen. The first attempt lasted only a few breaths. The second made Naruto's arms shake. The third was smoother. The gate stayed closed and the central seal remained unchanged. Their progress came from cooperation, inside rules all three understood. Naruto began to see how far the ceiling still was. He had touched one narrow stream of Kurama's power. Behind the gate waited an ocean. Minato had taught him one advanced technique, while the deeper ceiling knowledge in his father's memory could take years to understand. Flying Raijin remained far beyond Naruto's present control, and even the thin stream of Kurama's chakra exhausted him quickly. More important, Naruto had only begun deciding what kind of shinobi he wanted to become, instead of measuring every future skill against Minato's. That open space excited him more than instant strength would have. Outside, the political consequences continued growing. Aiwa requested clarification about reports of an unusual Jinchuriki incident near Fire Country's northeastern border. Hiruzen answered with as little detail as possible. Kumo repeated its denial and quietly reinforced several of its own border units. Fire Country intelligence began monitoring merchants for rumors about a red chakra cloak seen during the skirmish. No foreign village had proof that Naruto carried every part of Kurama, and Hiruzen intended to keep it that way. The information spreading through the world was dangerous enough already. Konoha's young Jinchuriki was active in the field and appeared capable of accepting Nine Tails chakra without immediately losing control. Then a different message arrived from Tsunagakure, framed as a request for cooperation. rather than a protest. The Sand had heard enough to believe that Konoha's young Jinchuriki had accessed the Nine-Tails chakra without losing control. Their message did not mention Minato. It did not claim to know how much of the Nine-Tails Naruto carried. It asked whether Konoha would consider a limited exchange of knowledge concerning Jinchuriki's stability. The medical details included with it were deliberately narrow, just enough to prove that Sand had a real problem without giving Konoha a complete map of their own Jinchuriki's weakness. Hiruzen treated that as leverage, not trust. Kakashi read the request once and immediately understood why Sand cared. Sunagakure had its own child carrying a tailed beast. The boy was Gaara. Reports about the boy were inconsistent, but none were good. He slept poorly. His Sand defended him automatically. Violent incidents had isolated him from most of his village. Whatever relationship existed between Gaara and the One-Tail, it was nothing like the narrow agreement Naruto had started building with Kurama. The request arrived only weeks after the cloud operation. Hiruzen placed the scroll in a locked drawer and ordered fresh reports on Gaara, Sand sealing specialists, and the political motives behind the offer before Konoha answered. Naruto knew nothing about the request yet. Late one evening, after Kakashi worked the team until Naruto's shoulders ached, Naruto went home, ate, and fell asleep with his forehead protector beside the bed. He opened his eyes in the familiar stone chamber and found Minato waiting beside a new chakra control pattern. Kurama studied the formula from behind the gate and immediately said the outer channel was positioned badly. Minato asked what he would change. Kurama started explaining, stopped halfway through the first correction, and realized Minato had drawn him into another lesson. Naruto laughed. Kurama glared at him, then ordered him to sit down because his shoulder channel was still carrying too much pressure whenever Fox Chakra entered from the left side. Naruto obeyed, still grinning. Minato adjusted the formula, while Kurama argued over the angle, and the three of them spent the rest of the session testing a safer flow with an amount of chakra small enough to make Naruto's hands warm without shaking. Several floors above the sleeping village, Hiruzen opened the drawer again and placed Tsunagakure's message beside Kakashi's border report. The Sand request included a short medical summary on Gaara. The boy slept in fragments. His automatic Sand reacted to threats before he chose to move, and previous attempts to strengthen his containment had made his condition worse. Hiruzen had already ordered intelligence officers to verify as much of the summary as they could before he trusted it. If he approved any contact, it would be a small diplomatic mission under heavy supervision, not a public tournament, and not an invitation for Sand Shinobi to inspect Naruto's seal. He sent for Kakashi and asked for his opinion on a controlled meeting between the two young Jinchuriki. Naruto was still arguing with Kurama about the training pattern when Kakashi received the summons. If Hiruzen approved the meeting, Team Kakashi's next mission would take Naruto beyond Fire Country and put him face to face with another child who had grown up carrying a tailed beast.